Today I want to talk to you about fork seals and how to install them. But there are a couple of other important things that you should know about before you order your next set of seals. The first thing I want to talk about is a fork seal driver. They come in a couple of different varieties. This one happens to be from Motion Pro. It actually breaks open into two pieces. They're good when you're doing inverted forks or when you don't want to take the fork legs out of your bike and you just take off the lower fork legs. We'll get to that in a minute. This is the one that I've had for many, many years. I really like it. It's heavy, it's got a knurled edge on it, and it's got a couple of different size pieces like this that will fit over your fork. So you want to find one that fits comfortably over the fork that you're working on. This fork tube happens to be 35 millimeters. This one's a little bit bigger. That's okay if it's a little bit bigger, but when you use something like this, you want to make sure that it is slightly smaller than the seal that you're going to be driving into the lower fork leg. That's very, very important. Now, I like this tool also because it's got a little O-ring on here. You put it into the end of this, you pop it in there, and you're ready to drive your seal a little bit later on. But now, let's talk about the seals. Many times, seals will have the marking on the top. So if you go to replace it, you can tell your seal and bearing house what the size is. This one happens to read 35 by 48. What does that mean? 35 millimeters inside diameter, which would be the inside of your fork leg, 48 to the outside diameter, which is the inside of the lower tube. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. This is where you want to pay attention. On this seal, sometimes it's marked what the height is. It's very, very important that you know the height, because once you put that seal inside this tube, it's going to be held down by this clip. This clip should be sitting snugly on top of that fork seal. Why? Because when your forks compress, they hydraulic, there's oil in there. That seal will pop up if it's not held down by that clip. Now, how should you measure the seal? You want to make sure that you use a digital caliper like this, something that's very, very accurate, where you can get a measurement. So, if you know the inside and the outside diameter, you want to make sure you know the height as well. Very, very important that you get the right height. Many times, you'll go on eBay or you'll go to other places and order fork seals. They'll generally show a generic picture. What you see in the picture may not be what you get. You got to be careful. Another good way to ensure that you're going to get the perfect fit is to measure the tube that you're going to be working with. Then you know exactly, and be careful because they can change from year to year. Honda's had 34 millimeters in 74, 75, I think 76 too. In 77, they went to a 35 millimeter. So be careful. So measure your tube and measure the inside of your lower fork if you're not really sure. When you go to put the seal in, this is kind of important. Whether you do it with the fork assembled or the fork is apart like this, it doesn't really matter. Of course, you're going to have the spring out. When you get your tube inside your lower fork, you're going to want to put your seal over that. Now, here's a little tip. When you go to put it on, you're going to be driving it down with this tool right here. You're not at the state fair trying to hit that sledgehammer to ring that bell to win your girlfriend a Cupid doll. You just want to drive it down low enough to get into the fork to where it bottoms out in the right place. You don't need to slam it. You just need to get it down far enough. Now, in this case, this tool isn't really long enough down here where the shoulder is to drive that fork seal all the way down into the lower tube where it needs to be. What I would recommend or suggest that you could try is taking your old fork seal, which I'm having a little difficulty getting on this thing right here right now, getting your lower fork seal, I'm sure Jordan will edit that out. Put it over the new seal, okay, and then drive it a little bit further down. It's only going to go a little bit further down and you'll be able to get the old seal back out again. You could pry it right back out. So, those are my tips. Make sure you know about the inside diameter, the outside diameter. Just as important, make sure you know the height. How are you going to check the height? Check the height with a digital caliper. Some guys are doing this during a restoration. You have time to measure your fork tube and your lower fork leg for the inside diameter. Some guys may not be doing that. You might have an emergency at the track to where your fork seals are leaking oil and you just want to drop the lowers off and replace the seals. But get a quality seal driver. Motion Pro makes a good one. The quality is fantastic. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I just think that it's really made for a newer fork, something much bigger, probably your inverted forks. Look online, find yourself an old-fashioned one like this. You'll be much better off.